I'm too busy for Bigfoot.
ideas. Yeah,
That's definitely, and that might have been a real thing.
You think so?
Yeah. It was a real animal.
There was a creature?
Yeah, there was a real creature called Gigantopithecus. It was a real animal. It was like 8 foot tall, bipedal hominid. It absolutely existed.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like a giant ape.
Dude, if
of
a
some
fucking
sort?
gorilla didn't exist, imagine seeing a gorilla. You'd be
Right.
like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is that thing?
6 foot, 600 pounds.
Hulking, huge,
Yeah.
hairy, black beast with a giant chest and enormous arms and pounds on his chest, runs on all fours, and you're like fucking fangs.
Yeah.
And when they fly through the air at each other and clash, and
crazy.
smash into each other and fight. Holy fuck, man. If you didn't know that was real,
I know.
and you ran into a gorilla, you'd be like, what the fuck? And by the way, they didn't know mountain gorillas were even a thing until the early 1900s. They were a
really?
legend. Yeah. When was the discovery of mountain gorillas?
Don't they think those giant chimps in the Congo are a hybrid?
No, they don't anymore because they have DNA.
Oh.
They're the only chimpanzee species or subspecies, I guess you should say, that they found that has a crest on its skull like a gorilla. 1902, bro.
Damn.
Yeah. A German
That's
explorer,
incredible.
Captain Robert von Beringe. The mountain gorilla was named the Gorilla Beringe in honor of the captain.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Fuck.
Look at those
imagine
things.
that thing. How about those? That guy who is an anti-poaching agent. He helps protect gorillas from poachers.
Yeah.
And he got them to pose standing up in a selfie. And even better, there's video of him tickling the gorillas,
Yep.
and the gorillas laughing,
Yep.
laughing like a person.
Yeah,
Dude,
they're
it's
so
crazy. So, was there a Bigfoot? Fuck yeah, there was a Bigfoot. Yeah. It was a real thing. That's why there's so many stories about it. And it probably died off 100,000 years ago or something.
Right.
You know. and it
Do
probably-
gorillas ever eat meat, or they're just vegetarians?
Not gorillas. No.
Yeah.
Gorillas are. We are closer to chimpanzees than chimpanzees are to gorillas.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think it's interesting in Goma where those groups of male chimps expand their territory. They kill other males
Yeah, they
and then
hunt.
move their women and children into the area that they annex.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Vicious. They just, as groups fall on the smaller, tribes of chimps and decimate them.
They
Very
have so
human.
many similarities to humans.
Yeah.
So many. Yeah. But these bondo apes, they call them. This is the giant chimp. They nest on the ground too, like gorillas.
Are they as violent as? They live in large communities like chimps.
The locals have two names for chimps over there. They have one that they call tree beaters. Those are the regular sized chimps, and the other ones they call lion killers.
Damn.
They're so big. They've got videos of these things eating a leopard.
What?
Yeah. They don't know if it. Yeah, they're enormous chimps. So they don't know if it killed the leopard or if the leopard died and then they're eating it. They don't know, but they do know one was eating a fucking leopard. So you got to think.
Yummy kitty cat.
When they're standing up, they're taller than me. I'm 5'8". They're 6 feet tall. You're 6 feet tall?
Yeah.
So they're your height.
Yeah.
Your height, but a chimp. And a jack chimp.
God.
It's probably like 250, 300 pounds.
Well, they say they're 400 pounds. The ones in the zoo,
be.
they have some in.
I don't
was it
believe
the
they
Kansas
do.
City Zoo.
No, I don't believe they do.
I think they do.
No.
They have two giant chimps. If you
Yeah,
look
they're
at
just big chimps. Those are just big chimps.
they're huge though.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
like,
yeah. They do. They've had chimps that are over 200 pounds. They've had some enormous chimps, but they've never had one of these. They live in a very specific area of the Congo.
But they've seen them.
Yes, they have video of them. They have photographs of them. You can see videos and you see camera trap photos. They're a real animal. It's a really big animal, man. It's a really big chimp.
That's amazing.
Can you imagine seeing a 6-foot chimp?
No.
Dude.
No, they eat your face and your genitals. No thanks.
Just imagine standing there. You turn a corner and there's a chimp as tall as you looking at you.
Disaster.
Yeah.
I have to go low.
Have you ever seen? Yeah, you're not going low.
No.
It doesn't matter what
What
you
was
do.
that? They had there was a traveling circus where they had a chimp and they would muzzle it and they'd have any man, the biggest man, just to hold the chimp down for 6 seconds, if you could do that, or 3 seconds, and no man was ever able to do it. They just,
Of course.
this was
have
a
a chance.
150-pound chimp.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even, even if it was muzzled, man, it could still rip your arms off. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're made out of Jell-O.
I've held a small one, a baby
Yeah,
one.
I held
It
a
was
baby
playing
one
with my
too.
puppy, and his back felt like wood.
Wood, yeah, like wood.
Like
That's
wood.
a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I
Like
said
Dan
it.
Henderson probably
Yeah,
feels.
exactly like Dan Henderson. He's got to be part chimp.
Yeah.
But I had a 2-year-old one once on not Fear Factor, News Radio. And when we're on the set, the scene actually got cut out. We never wound up using the scene. But there was a guy who was like an animal trainer, and he had a couple different animals with him. And one was a baby chimp in diapers. And this baby chimp got on my back and beat on my back a couple times. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was like you hitting me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. This fucking little tiny thing just wailed on me.
Jesus.
They're so strong, dude.
Yeah, they are.
Their little bodies are just hard, like corded.
No neck. Take crazy punishment.
Yeah. How much did you pay attention to McKenna's theory about the evolution of the human brain, of the stoned ape theory? That
Yeah, I looked at it, but I didn't find it persuasive. And in fact, if you press Terence McKenna, he didn't find it entirely persuasive. It was an interesting speculation. It's kind of a mind game. I can see how psychedelics would influence the mind and create new ideas, new memes, and might contribute to language. But how does it get into the genes? That's what
the genes.
The genes, because he said it changed us at the genetic level. I see psychedelics as having had a profound effect at the level of cultural evolution, that there are lots of interesting innovations that people who had psychedelic experience introduced to our culture. We talked about religion earlier.
Sure.
That could be one. I had a wonderful interview with Stuart Brand, the founder of the Whole Earth Catalog. And his insight, he had this profound insight during a psychedelic trip on the roof of his house in North Beach. And he saw the curvature of the earth in a way he hadn't before. And he said, God, if we could have this is 1966. We had never seen a picture of the earth from space yet. And he said, if we had a picture of the earth from space and we could see it as this round spaceship, that would change everything, because if you think of the earth as flat, as most of us instinctively do, it's endless. There's endless resources. You don't have to worry about limits in any way. But if we had that image, and he realized, I have to start a campaign to get NASA to turn the cameras around. They're on their way to the moon. Show us the earth from space. Oh. And he said, I'm going to make a campaign. I know. And he's, this is on LSD. I'll make a button, very important medium in 1966. I'll make a button. And what should the button say? It should be a little paranoid to get people's attention. Why haven't they shown us an image of the earth from space? Yeah, that's what he would do. And he started a campaign. He started selling these buttons. And the campaign got in the newspapers, and it goes viral, as viral as you could get in 1966. And 2 years later, NASA produced that image, and he put it on the Whole Earth Catalog, and that image galvanized the environmental movement. So it's those kind of memes that psychedelics introduces into culture, and that changes culture. That image changed culture. And I think there are hundreds of them. I mean, Steve Jobs talked about, his use of LSD is very important to his formative experience. And in fact, there's a whole tradition of computer engineers going back to the 50s using LSD that I wrote about in the book. So, but I don't see how we were selected genetically because of there was an advantage to the people who were taking a lot of psychedelics. That's where he loses me.
That's necessarily his
Maybe I'm
theory.
misrepresenting it.
His theory is that it coincides with climate change and these lower hominids experimenting with different food sources. So as the rainforest receded into grasslands, they started experimenting by flipping over cow patties and finding grubs and perhaps even mushrooms that were growing on these cow patties. And his theory was that there's a bunch of different benefits. One, low doses of psilocybin have been shown to increase visual acuity, which
and
would
it's
make
given to hunting dogs in certain cultures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make you a better hunter, make you more in tune with what you're doing. That it would make you more. It would central nervous system arousal, including sexual arousal, make you more horny, which would make you
more productive,
procreate more often, and that the very unusual effect that psilocybin has on the mind could have led to language and could have also led to the expansion of neurons.
Well, language could be part of cultural evolution.
Sure.
Yeah.
The doubling of the human brain size, though, was the particular thing. That it coincided, according to McKenna. It's been there's a lot of people that disagree with him, but his brother makes a very compelling case for it. His brother Dennis, who's still alive, and is a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
He talked about it on this podcast. He talked about his take on the stoned ape theory scientifically, why he believes it's really what happened, but that it does coincide with the change in climate of these ape-like people trying out different things, and that the doubling of the human brain size over a period of 2 million years is like one of the greatest mysteries in the entire fossil record.
Yeah, but there are alternative theories. I mean, I wrote about one in my last book.
All coincide.
They may be. Cooking with fire
Yes.
can explain the increase in the brain size because you get more nutritional value from cooked food than
The
raw
throwing
food.
arm, the desire to hunt all these different animals, and the calculating all these different ways to do that, and communication.
Right.
I think there's
Cooperation,
probably a bunch of coinciding factors.
Yeah, and it may well be that people were eating everything, right? Our ancestors, it's amazing what they ate. And no doubt they ate psychedelic mushrooms, and no doubt, I mean, he also believed that language was a form of synesthesia, in the way that synesthesia, you can smell a musical note or something like that you're taking a sound, a meaningless sound, and you're attaching it to a concept. That maybe that happened on psilocybin, but
he had a bunch of ideas that never panned out.
He was,
Ridiculous
he was
ideas.
an
high all the
incredibly
time.
creative person, and
Yeah.
and they're all really interesting to
Yes.
think about. Some of them, I think you can probably discredit based on what we understand about genes and evolution, but others are just really provocative.
Well, that's where his brother comes in. Because
Yeah.
his brother's
His brother's
strict
a scientist, yeah.
Strict scientist.
Right.
He doesn't tolerate any of the woo-woo. And he
and
goes
he
straight to...
and he's skeptical of some
Yes.
of his brother's ideas
Oh, yeah,
too.
openly. Yeah. I mean, loved his brother, but he was like, he's had a lot of things that weren't really accurate.
But also Terence McKenna too would say, well, I'm just putting these ideas out there.
Well, the guy was a constant pot user. He was constantly doing psychedelics.
and a brilliant talker. He would have a podcast now, right?
Oh, for
sure. It would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I'd promote the shit out of it.
I would too.
Yeah, I mean, he was a fun guy to listen to talk. And there's a podcast called The Psychedelic Salon that my friend Lorenzo hosts that has pretty much every Terence McKenna lecture and speech he's ever done available for free. You can download it. And Lorenzo has taken these and digitally remastered them so the sound is better. And it's really awesome that he's got this resource. But the idea that these lower hominids experimented with psilocybin, and this was what advanced culture or advanced language, advanced their understanding of each other. It's a very, very compelling idea.
Yeah, it is. And I think, the way I think about drugs like psychedelics in evolution, in the same way like in genetic evolution, radiation causes mutations. And some of those mutations turn out to be really valuable. Purely by accident, some great new trait is introduced to the species, and it increases fitness, and that person or that individual lives on. In the cultural realm, psychedelics are like radiation. They're mutagens. They create change, variation, and that advances cultural evolution. All that variation, all those wild ideas, 99% of them are stupid and useless, I'll bet. But that 1% can change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had guys be like, oh, yeah, they're delicious. I'm like,
what?
Like, tell me where to find it. Like, you've eaten it, and you have no reason to lie about this whatsoever. Like, please just help me.
What was this that they said?
That was regarding that caiman. Remember that yellow caiman? And we did find them, so that worked out. But literally, I remember we're walking through the village in day one before we even get in the canoes, and I'm like showing people these pictures of all the different species of caiman, and I kept pointing to the Trompa largo amarillo, the long-nosed yellow one, right? And everybody's like, yes, no, maybe, one time. And then one guy's like, oh, those are delicious. And I'm like, oh, God, can we put this on Animal Planet? I don't even know. Can you say that this thing is delicious?
Endangered species that you're eating. Well, there was always these rumors of like these places where these billionaires would fly into in China and eat like gorilla.
Yeah.
And, you know, have you ever heard of that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, I've heard about it. I believe it, too.
Do you?
I really do, yeah. I think that especially, you say, like, especially with China, where the Eastern medicine and the status symbol of eating tiger whiskers and this, that, and the other thing.
There's a status symbol of eating something that's forbidden and very difficult to acquire.
Exactly. And, China has so many billionaires now. I forget what it is, but dozens and dozens of them, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if that status symbol is important to someone with that much power and money, how are you not getting it?
Yeah, what a weird culture where your status is based on eating something that's endangered.
it doesn't even click in my head. Like, I cannot
So
physically
strange.
understand it. Like, no part of me is like, oh, I get that. Like, I really want to eat some tiger whiskers.
Have we ever talked about the Bondo ape?
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you
Yeah.
like the Bondo ape a lot. Yeah. Big lion-killing apes,
Well,
right?
this is just a big chimpanzee that
Yeah.
lives in the Congo.
Yeah.
Which is, the Congo is so incredible. It's like, God, what an insanely rich, resource-ridden
Yeah.
place that's also a war zone.
And being absolutely raped and pillaged by, big corporations in the Western world for resources and
Yes.
minerals and
I had Siddharth Kara on, who his book comes out. Does it come out next week? It comes out the end of January.
okay.
But his book is all about cobalt mining in the
Oh,
Congo,
interesting.
and it's horrifying.
I do want to read it. Yeah.
Horrifying. 19-year-old girls with babies on their back
Oh, yeah.
who are hand chipping cobalt
Yep.
out of the ground and then inhaling all these toxic fumes and,
Yeah.
and powder, this dust, and then that is in your cell phone.
Right.
That's how the cobalt
Yep.
gets into your fucking cell phone.
That's at your Apple store.
nuts.
It's the new blood diamond,
Yes.
right? It's the new, and it's funny because I feel like the whole blood diamond thing, and there's been lots of these things, but it all sort of went away because it got exposed. But I feel like no one's talking about the inhumane things that are taking place for our modern conveniences. It's one thing when it's a luxury, like a blood diamond, right?
Right.
Or whatever. But when it's like, oh, well, I can't live without my iPhone, then it's like we're willing to turn a blind eye to it. It's like people
Yeah.
choose not to accept it because it's part of their life.
Just think about how many people who consider themselves social justice warriors, and they do this complaining on a phone that's made by slaves.
Totally. Yeah.
So
they're
crazy.
they're literally tweeting or texting or whatever
Yeah.
their complaints on a thing that is contributing to the thing they're complaining about.
It's the contributing to the worst version of it
Right.
in humanity right now.
Isn't it
which
crazy?
Is really crazy. I mean, it's like literally human trafficking.
So in the book, does he actually go into the Congo and witness
Yes.
this? And
Oh yeah, he took video footage. He
Oh,
came
you're kidding.
on. His story is so compelling.
Oh, I must listen
It's
to it.
so and he talks about it with such passion because he worked on this for years and years.
Yeah.
And risked his life to obtain footage and to get access and to go to these what they're supposedly ethical mines.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is all horrible. It goes, all of it is tainted.
Yeah.
All the cobalt that we have, all of it is at least in some part coming from these, what they would call. I mean, it's basically just the most primitive version. People in flip flops with hammers.
Yeah.
Chipping it out of the ground.
What's extreme poverty?
Yes.
Right, and
it's more like slavery.
It is.
Calling it extreme poverty, I think, is not quite accurate enough. They call them artisanal mines, which is like hilarious because it's like
anytime you
about,
slap that word onto
Yeah.
anything, it's fun.
oh,
right?
it's artisanal.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I think someone's making pottery somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
But,
Yeah.
So back to the Bondo ape.
Sure.
Is that what is? Because I know there was some controversy behind that, and there's some people that sort of denied its existence. But then Carl Armand got photographs of them, and they obtained skulls that were a chimpanzee skull that had a crest.
Enlarged. Yeah.
Well, they also had a crest, like the same way that a gorilla does.
My understanding, and this is not something I'm super familiar with, but there's no denying that they existed, right? There was this insular gigantism that took place within this group of chimpanzees. There was heightened aggression. That's all like known and documented, but it wasn't a new species. It wasn't a distinct species. It was sexual or rather natural selection that led to these animals being different and isolated and turning into larger, more aggressive chimpanzees. That's my
Interesting.
understanding of it.
But would that also make their skulls different?
It can do,
Because oddly enough, we have a skull.
Yeah,
of a
it's very cool.
chimpanzee. This is made by Shane Against the Machine, who's a guy on Instagram who's an incredible artist. He's
cool.
made a couple of pieces for the podcast studio.
Oh,
but
rad.
The difference is with this skull versus what they think the Bondo ape skull is, that the Bondo ape has like a bone mohawk
Right
down
through
the
here.
center.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a gorilla does.
Sure. So, sexual selection over time can evolve for anything, can adapt for anything, right? That's why peacocks have the silly tail they have. It doesn't help them fly, right? It's only sexual selection it's being bred for. So you get a bunch of chimps stuck on an island, stuck in a region, and the females decide for whatever reason that a bump on the head is sexy. Okay? Now, every chimp that has a slight bump on its head is being selected for by the females to reproduce offspring. Fast forward 15, 20 generations, maybe 200 generations, whatever, they all have a crest on their head. That is how evolution begins, because now you fast forward millions of years and the sexual selection has been selected for over and over and over and over, and you're starting to turn into a new creature, a new organism altogether.
If I'm not, I don't think I'm incorrect here. I think the crest indicates enormous mandible muscles.
Because the muscles attach up there.
Yeah, I think
Makes
that's
sense.
what the crest is for.
Yeah.
Because that's how it is with dogs.
Sure.
Like, have you ever noticed the difference between a dog that's castrated and a dog that's not fixed?
In
One of the
temperament,
things-
sure.
The size of their heads.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Like, my dog is a golden retriever,
Yeah.
the sweetest dog in the world.
Yeah.
But he has a pretty big head.
Yeah.
And it's the muscles in his head are big.
Sure.
Like on the sides of his head, because he has his testosterone.